Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, brought to you by Join Cycling, the #1 training platform on the market. We're about to talk about the hardest maybe mountain stage in the Tour de France this year. If you want to get better in the mountains, go check out Join Cycling. More on them later. This is stage 15, the last stage before the second rest day. One of the most, if not the most important stages for this year's Tour de France, from Loudunville to Plateau de Bay, over 5,000 meters elevation gain across 200 kilometers, starting with the Peyresourde, where Pogacar attacked in 2020 to take time, 7k, 7.8%, it might be the other side, straight out of neutral. Then a descent, valley of 20k's more or less, then the Col de Monte, 10k's, 8.5%, very steep gradients, descent, Col de Porte d'Aspet, 4.5k's, 10%, and then another valley of 60 kilometers before the Col d'Agny, 10.1k's, 8.2%, short descent, and then the Port de l'Air, 4.5k's, 5.4%. I'm still not at our final climb. That's 150k's in. Then another descent, and then Plateau de Bay, 15.7k's at 7.8%. The 5 or 4 Cat 1 climbs preceded. Then this HC climb, which is pretty consistently steep. Okay, some Ks are 6% or 6.5%, but then there's a 10%, couple of Ks in the middle, and then it maybe gets a bit easier at the end. It's a hard, long climb. The record from Pantani was about 43 mins, more or less, back in the day. Not high altitude. Weather conditions, 30 degrees, quite hot today as compared to yesterday in the valleys in particular. And what do we have anything before the stage, Benji?
I don't think so. I was just very hyped for today's stage because you indicated already how important this stage is. We said it yesterday. Yesterday was an important and very impressive performance by Pogacar on Pladade, but that's a stage with a lot less kilojoules, a lot less energy expenditure than today's stage. I'm talking 4,000, 4,500 versus maybe 6,000 kilojoules roughly on a stage like today, and that's a lot harder. Once you get over the 5,000 energy expenditure in kilojoules, then you don't know how your body's going to react to that. And sometimes we see riders that we don't expect to drop in such moments. And also, that indicated potential strategies, because we spoke yesterday throughout the strategies that each team would have. Remco, I'd expect to just follow. That's number one. Ineos could make the race harder or not for Carlos Rodriguez, but mainly Visma was the one we said would try to make the race as hard as possible, because in previous years, they saw a vulnerability in Pogacar on high energy expenditure mountain stage, on the big mountain stage, especially when they have those 45-minute climbs at the end. And then the other question was, would they have the team to actually pull that off? That's also something I was curious to see in this stage. And I was so incredibly hyped for this stage. And it started early because it's a 200-kilometer stage. And it started off with the Col de Peyresourde. And I don't know about the Col de Peyresourde, but I was kind of expecting it to be a little more explosive than it was. That makes sense?
Yeah, and it was... I feel like the other breakaway guys, a few of them realized what was going on, which is Visma were not trying... They were having Jorgensen follow groups of 6 or 7, but not jumping himself. And then Yates obviously is marking Jorgensen and Soler. And so that stops the break forming and just keeps the other guys jumping. And it means that the first climb can be really hard, no break forms, but also Visma didn't have to pace it. And so you see a few breakaway riders conserving their bullets, but some of them, like Gaudu or Lazcano, going for the KOM sprint, or Simon Yates throws in a dig. Healy, of course. I mean, Healy and Carapaz, they got to find a way to work together in the future to be a bit more efficient getting in these breakaways. But yeah, it just wasn't going, Benji. It didn't look like UAE were slipping a Yates in, though.
Not really.
He was more not wanting Jorgensen in the splits.
I think so as well. And to be clear, Jorgensen was trying to get in the splits because sometimes it looked like he was trying to get in splits, and sometimes that same maneuver kind of looked like he was closing down moves because the UAE guys were kind of in his wheel. So maybe he was trying to move in splits, but the UAE guys neutralizing his wheel, being directly in the wheel of him, made that hard, because then everybody gets to the wheel of that. And at a certain point, there was like 8 riders up the road, Jorgensen in last wheel, and then UAE had 2 riders in the wheel of Jorgensen. And then a third UAE rider closed that gap gradually, which I think is the strategy to do here. And yes, while this is all happening, the sprinters go off the back, some riders go off the back, but not necessarily major GC riders have issues on Peyresourde, is what I noticed. But we get to the top of the Peyresourde, no real pure breakaway up the road yet, no real differentials when it comes to the GC teams yet. And it's Bardet versus Lascano versus Godu for the first KOM points. And Lascano's been super strong on the mountains, but here it became clear that there's still something as acceleration in a sprint for a KOM point, because Godu just went way faster in the last few meters, and Godu took that. I don't know if it was ahead of Lascano or Bardet, but
Yeah.
Godu took valuable points there. But my opinion and my perspective was actually not on the front of the race right now. I was curious what was happening with Binyam, because the back of the group, I saw Pole trying to survive for dear life, and next to that was Binyam trying to survive for dear life, dropping just off the back on the climb. In the descent or in the start of the valley, he made it back to the, would we call it the GC group or the peloton group? I think it's called the peloton still. It's not small enough for the GC group yet. And the breakaway forming in the valley, was that a surprise for you or not?
No, it was not. Because that is where, if Visma are trying to make the race hard, why are they going to then, say they want to use Laporte for the next climb, they're not going to get him to close the break in the valley. And UAE, if they're going for the stage, it's a bit different. If they're explicitly going for a stage plus make the race hard, then you want a manageable group. But then, yeah, it was pretty much a free-for-all of whoever wanted to get in the breakaway. And that was where you should use your tuggers to get in, quote-unquote, easily. Because, yeah, a group of strong rouleurs forms in that breakaway. I would say this was a Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, masterclass. Because they get Jungels in and Nico Denz in, and they just start absolutely ripping it for Hindley. And so you've got Denz pulling all out in this, how long's the valley? 15, 20 Ks. It's a decent valley, you know? You could, like, 25 minutes maybe before the next climb, which is a half an hour climb. And so they're ripping it full gas. Really, really good tactics. Bora, obviously Roglic has crashed out. They're trying to get something out of the race, and they did their best today, and I thought were quite good. So credits to them. Who else was in that break? Kwiatkowski, Guillaume Martin, Enrique Mas, maybe Aaron Baru, Oscar Onley. It was a decent break with a mixture of rouleurs, but no GC threat. So no one even on a top 10 threat, Benji. There's no Santi who tried to jump in today.
Exactly. I think the closest rider was, again, Ben Healy on about 15 minutes in that group to get away with Carapaz, etc. And, like, did we speak already about Binyam's intermediate sprint? Because he actually made his way to this breakaway, and they went over to the intermediate sprint, and let's be honest about it, nobody in this group is highly set on winning the intermediate sprint, but Matthews is also in there. So on paper, Binyam would beat Matthews at the IS, take 20 points, but it was actually a bit more, I wouldn't say spectacular, but interesting than that. Because we see the sprint starting, Binyam launches, Matthews tries to come around on the right side, and Binyam moves to the right. Yes, there's a bend going to the right gradually, but Binyam's deviation was way more than just trying to find the inside bend for me.
He knew what he was doing.
For me, this was relegation worthy. It took me a few times of watching to actually notice it, because they didn't actually show the helicopter shot. I think only the front-on shot.
Yeah.
But he closed in on Matthews.
He closed in the whole way.
So he did get relegated, while Binyam did win the sprint on the road, took the 20 points on the road. He then got relegated. But the thing is, from a breakaway, only 3 riders were going for it. Mankies did the lead out for Binyam, and then Matthews was there. So the group was only 3 riders and not the entire breakaway, which means that if you get relegated, you don't get relegated to the back of the breakaway, but only to the back of those 3 riders. So instead of 20 points, Binyam gets the third spot, which is 15 points. I do think in the jury document after the stage, maybe Luke can confirm that Binyam will get an extra penalty. I think it's 25% of the possible points gained. So maybe 5 points he will lose extra.
Okay.
So he would have gained still 10 points by being in that break. So it's still a positive experience, but it was unnecessary what Binyam did, and he shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, and the curious thing, Benji, is that the person who's in that sprint with him, who he deviates against, is Bling, who got stuffed he got relegated in Tour of Flanders. There was a gap, and he got put at the back of the group that was behind the gap.
True.
He didn't get put on the time behind. He didn't get put in the place behind Pollitt, who came third or then in the end, right? And he got relegated all the back to like 11th, which is a lot of UCI points in a monument. And then today I was worried for Binny. Well, not worried because he deserved to get relegated. It's consistent with how they've managed all the sprints. But yeah, I thought Binny might actually get put to the back of the whole breakaway, but they didn't, which I think is correct as well. So yeah, Binny, he ends the green jersey battle, notwithstanding what Benji said about further penalties. He ends the green jersey battle, at least I think, with that IS today.
Yeah, I think so as well.
It's if it wasn't over already.
10 points extra, Philipsen wasn't there. And on paper, I had already had the opinion that it was over. Maybe if Binny has more of a penalty than just the 25% that I think he has, then it's maybe still in play, but I don't see it. There's like one sprint stage left. I think it's the next stage, actually, and a bit of a breakaway stage on stage, maybe 18, Barcelonette, whatever it is, 18 or something. So those are the two options, I think, for points for those two riders, and it would surprise me if Philipsen wins both those stages. But anyway, points classification aside, breakaway, like you said, includes Bora being very active in getting this breakaway rolling. They have Sobrero, Jungels, and Hindley left over, and Jungels and Sobrero are vital for the next, let's say, 100 kilometers to keep this breakaway going. They were really pacing the majority of the climbs. Bob Jungels and Sobrero did a hell of a job to keep this breakaway going, and they had to, because while the breakaway was smashing it, while Bora was smashing it during the valleys, etc., in the peloton, we noticed that once the climb started, the expected strategy came from Visma Leasebike. We started seeing the riders that, from Visma Leasebike, pacing on the climbs to make the race harder, to try and just get more kilojoules in the legs of every rider in the race. And that started with Laporte, I think, on the Col de Monte, followed by Bart Lemon. And I think Bart Lemon probably made one of the more underrated performances today. That man paced so much over the Col de Monte. Paulid once again struggling at the back. I think that's the story of the first three climbs. Every single climb, Paulid was struggling at the back. And he actually got over it. And then on Porteras Pe, which is a very steep climb, the one after Col de Monte. We're still in the first half of the race, by the way. Yeah. Lemon pacing again. Tish Benoit pacing after Lemon. And at the top, Paulid is struggling and barely surviving. It's a repetitive thing, but it's happening. And then in the valley, I think it was Lemon and Van Aert, no?
It was, but I just want to go back a little bit to the second part of the breakaway formation, unless you mentioned it, which was the climbers that missed out, then had to panic on the second climb. And so we saw bridging from Healy, from Carapaz, EF missed it, and DSM as well. They paced in the valley, actually, as well as even Sobrero came along, Javier Romo, Movistar got more numbers in front, and De Plus. Ineos wanted a satellite rider, it seemed. I don't think it was for the stage win. They first had Kwiatkowski who got dropped, and then De Plus went across. So Ineos was the only GC team, let's say, in the top 5, who got a rider in the breakaway. So the strong climbers did get there, but at what cost? Like Yates and Healy, and they're all messing about. It was a mess. It was not a clean entry into the breakaway for a lot of the favourites, except for Hindley and Muss. They did it really well, and Javier Romo was good. Just a word before we get into that valley and then the Col d'Agnès on our show partner, Join Cycling, which provides science-based adaptive training plans that evolve with your progress, ensuring continuous fitness improvement. For the Lanterne Rouge free trial users, Join did a survey. They asked, what do you expect from Join Cycling? And overwhelmingly, it was 9 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10 about structured training, common platforms, e.g., it's really easy to integrate or use Join with Zwift or other training platforms because you can export the workout to your Wahoo or your head unit or whatever head unit. Luke doesn't. Luke's a Garmin guy. I'm a Wahoo guy. So Luke will want me to say Garmin as well. So it's really easy to integrate with other platforms to keep your training going for wherever you like to train. Or if you just, I just use the Join workout player on my mobile. I love it. I use that almost every day. Yeah, you can see I was tapping along on the Peresud today. It may be the same watts per kilo as Adam Yates, maybe a bit less. Who knows? But ease of use, fitness improvement, all of these things. The people that were surveyed, you, the listeners, who used Join Cycling's free trial, found that in Join Cycling exactly what they wanted. So if you want to check it out to get personalized plans to help you with consistency that adapts with you, your availability, and your progress, check out Join Cycling down below. You don't have to be training 10 to 15 hours a week. Even training 5 to 7 hours a week, you can have huge improvement with a bit of structured, adaptable training. And so there's no strings attached, 30-day free trial, and there's even a discounted 6 months subscription after that if you do like it. So don't take my word for it. Check it out down below. Thanks to Join Cycling for supporting the show. That valley, Benji, between the two climbs, long. I had lunch. My mother-in-law's come back over, which is good. So yeah, we had a nice lunch. I was chilling. I had to go to the hospital last night. Can I do story time or not?
Yes, you can do story
everyone
time.
expects, by the way, everyone expects me to be like depressed. That's why everyone's tuning in. But no, I had to go to the hospital last. I had is this too much or no? I've started it. People want to know now. I had a sebaceous cyst in my neck, and I got it checked out. Obviously, because people saw it in the Flanders video, and they're like, "Oh, it's on your. It could looks like an enlarged lymph node." And I was like, "Oh, I should get that checked out." Got 2 MRIs from 2 opinions. Sebaceous cyst. Well, we have the proof also in the pudding. Unfortunately, that is a sebaceous cyst because it got inflamed yesterday, so I had to go get antibiotics. And some anti-inflammatories. So we'll see what happens with it. But it's on
I'm
the
glad
mend.
you're okay.
Oh, I mean, Jesus, it's just a fucking pimple. But the thing is, in Andorra, like, you go to hospital for anything. You got a headache. Like,
Bruh.
no, they're like, if you go to the doctor, like, referral, go to the hospital, and you just go straight in. I was in and out in 45 minutes. Triage. They did an ultrasound. I'm doing it. It's like a second ad read for Andorra's health system. Then straight to the pharmacy that was also open. 30 euros. Thanks for coming. But yeah, I don't know what the relevance of that was.
Where were we?
We were in the middle of the hot valley around Saint-Giron before the Col d'Agneau.
Okay, so Col d'Agneau, but before the Col d'Agneau, we had some splits in the breakaway, and honestly, it was kind of a funny split. We just see suddenly a shot of the Bora train choo-chooing, and suddenly there's a bunch of riders that have missed the split and aren't with the Bora train choo-chooing anymore. We've got Hindley, Jungels, and Sobrero. Sobrero and Jungels are the ones smashing it. Ben Healy kind of makes it just in time to be there. Next to that, Mas and Romo. So the best climbers in that on paper would be Mas, Hindley, and the Plus. And then I look into the next group and I see who missed it, and I'm like, Carapaz missed it. So it looks like EF has the wrong rider on paper in the split. Simon Yates has missed it. It's not shocking that Jaco misses a split in the breakaway. Has happened every day in this Grand Tour. Lenny Martinez, Fulsang, Guillaume Martin, Alex Aramburu, God fucking damn it, Aramburu, Oscar Onley, and Tobias Holland Johannessen. And missing that split about 4 kilometers before Col d'Agneau. On paper, you'd say 4 kilometers, they'll start the climb relatively close, huh? No, because there's 2 Bora domestiques smashing it towards the bottom of Col d'Agneau right now. So the gap was immediately 30, 40 seconds by the foot, 45 seconds by the foot. And that's a lot of energy for these climbers in the second group, like Simon Yates, like Carapaz, like Only, like Johannessen, to bridge on the climb of Col d'Agneau. So it's harsh to say, but that's a mistake that you're not in that split. It's not always easy to be in that split, but it looked like a weird situation how that split formed. Col d'Agneau starts.
Well, yeah, EF should always have one of their Carapaz or Healy with Hindley.
Yeah, for sure. And ideally Carapaz, I would say.
Yeah, Carapaz came 233 down on Pla d'Ade yesterday, so he's like GC level again.
Yeah.
Like, not up there with the big guys, but that's GC level. So for a breakaway, he's their best option.
And isn't the logic behind it that if you stay with Hindley, it's not like Bora will send Jungels and Sobrero up the road after they've been pacing all day. So it's all for Hindley. So
yeah.
If you stay with Hindley, you're likely going to make the split. And then they have Healy that bridges first and not Carapaz. And that didn't look like the right thing, but that all changes on the climb for the breakaway.
And you could tell Carapaz, Benji, you could tell he wasn't because like Healy goes across and he's like, no, that's not what we're doing here. And he starts chasing and he's like, I can't just in this valley chase because he's now represented. He's like, Simon Yates, like, can someone else close it quickly, please? Like, this is not what, like, it is really, it really, as much as it was unfortunate, Healy just should have got on the front and brought it back. Yeah.
And, well, isn't that kind of what is happening on the climb? Because then we see the gap being 3:35 from the breakaway to the peloton once Col d'Agneau start. We got to remind you, this is still like 70k to go in the stage. This is not the final climb. And Healy starts waiting from group 1, seemingly waiting. I was expecting it to be waiting, not necessarily dropping. And we see Carapaz trying to bridge up from that second group that well, he missed a split, and he uses Healy as like a launching pad or like a pacer in between the two groups, and eventually makes it to Group 1, while Hindley, Mas, and the Plus drop the likes of Romo, the likes of Sobrero, and Jungel. So the best climbers from that first group together with Carapaz are now up the road, and eventually it's more in the descent after Col d'Agnes and the start of Port Lair, etc., that Tobias Holland Johannesson also makes it to G1. But let's be honest about it, we're here mostly for the action in the GC group, right?
And what were you seeing there? It was just getting gradually whittled down, Benji.
Yeah.
But Visma were running out of numbers, so I think they got the order of. Did you say Tratnik? Did you discuss it? So yeah,
I said nothing about the peloton on Agnes.
I think they got the order of Tratnik and Benoit wrong.
Okay.
Does it make a difference? No, in the end. But yeah, Benoit starts pacing before Tratnik on. I mean, maybe even Lemon Benji would have been faster on the climb than Tratnik.
Yeah. What a day by Lemon.
Yeah, good performance from Lemon. Sure, no Seb Kuss, but he has actually been a really serviceable and valuable addition to the team on no notice, no altitude camp, whatever. But yeah, Benoit paces, drops Tratnik. He does about half of Col d'Agnes, maybe 10, 12 minutes. We've stored another 18 minutes, about 30-minute climb left. Steep too, over 8%, like Col de Spandel. These irregular and steep Pyrenean climbs. And then Kelderman takes over. And now it's like Kelderman, Jorgensen, what's his name? Vingegaard. And so there's 3 Vismas and not very quickly, but after Kelderman's pulling 3 UAEs, Pogacar, Almeida, Yates, and Sivakov drops, Soler drops. And I'm thinking, ooh, is Kelderman Visma playing with fire here? Because if he paces too hard and then you just got Jorgensen, what are you going to... You've not got many numbers left for the rest of this stage, but Kelderman actually does a really good job because he's pulling against, I think, a pretty good breakaway in terms of climbing level ahead and keeps it pretty stable. But yeah, we just see attrition, Benji, but I don't think anyone in the top 10 dropped on the penultimate climb on GC, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think so either. It was just the domestiques. Like we saw Sivakov dropping, Benoit dropping, Hirt dropping, Van Wilder dropping, Polit, Wellens, all happened on this climb. Tratnik without pacing, like you said, seems along the wrong order, but hey, like you also said, wouldn't have made a difference at the end. But to me, it looked at the top of Port Lair, at the top of Agnes already, that we still got 60 kilometers to go, and Kelderman has to pace the last 2 kilometers of Agnes, the descent of Col d'Agnes, the 4 kilometers or whatever it is of Port Lair, the descent of Port Lair, the valley before Plateau de Bay, and that's it, I think. Because I would expect Visma to want to wait with Jorgensen until they arrive at Plateau de Bay, at the foot of Plateau de Bay. But that does make it clear that Jonas Vingegaard would have to launch very early on Plateau de Bay. And the only thing you can say here is that if the Visma Lab team this year was better, it probably would have looked a little bit different. Probably would have had a bit more riders on top of Port Lair. They would have hoped at least, because then you'd on paper still have Kuss left on the final climb next to Jorgensen. But hey, he's not here, so they have to work with the pedals they have. Is that a thing? Like, what do you call in a kayak? The things
the
that
paddles.
you used to... The paddles, not the pedals. Fuck.
You gotta, what we say in English? Maybe you gotta play the hand you're dealt.
It's a boring expression.
Oh, come on. This is true. It's like, you can't be like, if Seb Kuss was here, he's not here. He's not here. So it's
Exactly.
like, you gotta do what you gotta do with the best you got. I mean,
2022 Van Aert isn't here either.
yeah, Van Aert's not like on, even maybe on Jouplan, he's a bit better last year. So, last year he would have paced maybe the first 2-3 Ks of Col d'Agnes. This year gone. So you got to deal the hand you dealt. But yeah, you're right, Benji. It's like Visma couldn't really completely launch that penultimate climb because they would have been left with no riders around Vingegaard. But yeah, we're coming into the breakaway, by the way. Oh, what?
We have to talk about a moment between Port Lair and Plateau de Bay. In the group behind, I think Vingegaard and Jorgensen maybe have gone for a beat for a piss before Plateau de Bay, probably the latter. And at the front of the group, Kelderman's pacing. Anyway, he does need to follow the tempo of Kelderman because it's not... They don't care if the tempo is super hard. So Kelderman just keeps on riding. And this is something, I think you said it before in podcast, that I want to see more. People just refusing to follow the rider that is pacing. Kelderman suddenly looks behind, and there's 50 meters of no riders behind him because he just stopped following him because Jorgensen wasn't in the wheel of Kelderman. So then Jorgensen had to pace the group behind back to Kelderman while Kelderman is waiting. I love that.
Yeah, I think this sort of shenanigans should be more encouraged, especially because, right, the GC teams, they don't want to have their climbers on these valleys sitting in the first 5 wheels because you eat way more wind. And so you try to hide them deeper in the group. And then you could just let the wheel go and be like, I don't need to follow your domestique setting a pace in this valley. And then they have to go close it. So it's I know this sort of shenanigans I would strongly encourage because it does irritate people. But yeah, we're coming up to Plateau de Bay. The breakaway, Benji, I've never seen a more disorganized group of combatants. Honest to God, I mean, I think it gets this way when they know they can't win. Like it gets just really stop-start ridiculous when I think Carapaz also, he's got himself to blame as well for this. But yeah, like in another Tour de France, these are how many how many Grand Tour podiums are between the breakaway? Nearly 10?
Ooh, Carapaz has 2?
3. He's podiumed all 3 Grand Tours.
Carapaz. Oh yeah, true. The Vuelta as well.
Enrique Mas podiumed the Vuelta, what, like 3 times at least?
3 times, I'm guessing. Hindley won the Giro and
podiumed the Giro.
So that is 8.
It's a good breakaway, dude.
Yeah.
And in another year, they go for the win, but that's just not what it was today. Visma had other ideas, and they're making the race hard. What did you think at this moment, Benji? It's good to now, because we know the result, obviously, but at the base of Plateau de Bay, Kelderman pulls off. I think the breakaway was at 2:30. It's been a hard day. You can tell how reduced the group is. It's hot. It's 34 degrees. What did you think at the base of Plateau de Bay when it looked like Jorg started to take over?
Well, fault number 1, the breaking and winning today. Fault number 2, when it comes to the peloton, Jorg already launching at the foot, which is what we expected having seen what happened on Agnes. But that also means that Vingegaard would have to go with 12 to 8 kilometers to go, was my thought process. Because Jorgensen can't keep pacing for 8 kilometers on Plateau de Bay at a tempo of which you can launch from. But also, I was never expecting Vingegaard to make like an attack to try and gap Pogacar, you know? Because his aim would be to set the pace high enough, is what I was thinking, to hope that Pogacar cracks in his wheel, which that's a big if, but if it works, it works. And I gotta say, so far, I don't have any problem with the strategy that Visma Lab has been pulling throughout this entire stage. Because based on previous years, that was the only thing that could potentially disrupt Pogacar today. And yes, you can take the safe option today. You can take the safe option and not pace throughout the stage, let the break win by 10 minutes, and on the final climb, you can then use your team to try and make the final climb hard. But you're less likely, in my opinion, to potentially crack Pogacar by doing that than if you go all out from the start. And yes, it's an all or nothing tactic, but this is the kind of stage you have to do that on. And otherwise, you're not good enough to win the Tour de France anyway.
I don't even think it's all or nothing, because the alternative is, if you don't make it hard, then Adam Yates and Joe Almeida and Pavel Sivakov come to the base of Plateau de Bay and do a lead out. And you're still probably going to lose time. Maybe not the amount of time, but you're still going to lose time. So now you can lose it all if you crack yourself completely, lose the podium, etc. But I agree. Like, obviously I agree, but this is, if you think Vingegaard can win the Tour, this is the only way. There's no co-leader. There's no 2 minutes in the ITT ain't happening.
There's no other option.
Yeah, this is, you have to go for it. Like, and UAE weren't. And also, if you don't pace, you could even lose more time if you do nothing.
But the question is, does it work? What Visma Lab has been plotting this entire stage, trying to make the race as hard as possible, trying to make sure every single rider is on their limit on Plateau de Bay. Is it working? Pogacar still looks okay at the start of Plateau de Bay, in my personal opinion.
He looked 100% fresh.
Jorgensen was riding with Vingegaard in the wheel, Vingegaard and Polka. I love seeing it, gotta say it. And eventually we get to 11 kilometers to go. We get to 10.9 kilometers to go, 10.8, and I'm starting to think, okay, Jorgensen went down when it comes to his pace a little bit, but now he's starting to ramp up. And did the attack of Jonas Vingegaard come?
It did, but it came very early. So Jorgensen, he had to change bike before the climb, so maybe he overpaced if he couldn't see his power numbers. But yeah, it's about 10 Ks to go, maybe even longer on the climb. This is a long climb too. You could see that the pace had been increased from Jorgensen because Yates started slipping. Almeida had been dropped. So Jorgensen obviously did a very, very good pace. To be honest, I don't think it's that dissimilar from what Kuss would have done, honestly. Like, he drops Buitrago and Carlos Rodriguez. Like, it's a good pace. He's reduced it to 5 guys. And then Vingegaard goes. Pogacar's, there's no separation. He's immediately in the wheel. Vingegaard doesn't have that acceleration like Pogacar. And Pogacar, yeah, you can see his cadence is really good, really, really high. His jersey's fully zipped. His mouth isn't fully open. He's not bobbing too much. He looks really, really fresh. And then you're thinking, the big crack probably ain't coming, but what else is Vingegaard going to do now? He's now kind of committed to just pacing, because if you stop, who's going to pace?
Yep, that's true. And he kept that pacing up to 9 kilometers to go, to 8 kilometers to go, to 7 kilometers to go. And Pogacar wasn't budging. And I got to be honest, it's not always easy to see how a rider is feeling, but I didn't feel like Pogacar was on the limit once he was in the wheel of Vingegaard. But we're looking at these two riders, but we have to say, while all that is happening between Vingegaard and Pogacar at the front of the race, they are the two best riders in this race by far, because the gap towards the rest kept expanding. Remco's on like a minute now. We've got a Rodriguez group on 140. Almeida dropped really early, but while this is happening, he's gradually passing riders on the road, passing Adam Yates, passing Carlos Rodriguez. Like, I would have loved to see like an Almeida camera at the end of this stage. Just like see how he passed everybody after he dropped as one of the first rider. It's a pure Almeida moment. But back to the front of the race, like you said, Pogacar wasn't necessarily budging, but there was one moment that was very pivotal on the final climb today. And that's Vingegaard. And I swear, did I see a bit of an elbow flick?
From Vingegaard? Oh, I don't think so.
I think just before the attack, Vingegaard elbow flicked.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. It was to me, it looked like Vingegaard elbow flicked, and Pogacar might have seen that as a signal, and that is the moment that he decides to smash it towards the opposite side of the road and attacks Vingegaard.
I knew it was coming though. I was like, once Vingegaard's not, what's the longest Vingegaard's ever pulled without dropping Pogacar? Ventoux, he maybe pulled for 2 minutes and then Pogacar lost the wheel. Like, it felt like Coulthard to me. Like, Coulthard, we didn't know exactly what would happen because Pogacar got dropped the day before, but this felt like Coulthard where it's like, he's not budged for 12 minutes. And also, just the tells, like, he's looking around. When a fan gets in the way and drops something, Pogacar's curious enough to look at what the object was behind him. He's sitting up, hands-free, pouring water on him. Like, when you're completely on the limit, you are not, like, looking back at... You know you can't get a bid on out. You're just staring at the wheel cross-eyed. So, yeah, it was coming, and Pogacar drops the hammer and puts this Tour de France to bed. And because this is going to be a big gap. If he's been sitting in and now goes quicker... and Vingegaard's been pacing, it's going to be all over for him. And you got to say, like, the gaps to the others were already big. It's not like Vingegaard was going slow. We'll get it. We'll talk about the numbers maybe in a second, but to get ahead of that, Vingegaard was like cracking or no. Like, he put 3.5 minutes, nearly 4 minutes into Adam Yates, like, who's riding for his own GC position. That's Vingegaard. So that's not cracking. So he's setting a good pace, and yeah, Pogacar just way too good. Like yesterday, he showed on maybe not as long a stage or climb, he was clearly the best. It wasn't 5 seconds in a sprint, it was 40 seconds. Today, he shows after the 30 degrees, 5,000 meters altitude gain, 200 Ks, Visma pacing all out, throwing everything they had at him, that he's the best in this Tour de France, and frankly, the best rider ever. Like this version of Pogacar is the best cyclist ever. Not close.
Yeah.
Even best GC rider ever. This is the best GC rider ever.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's like, he's such a versatile rider, not just when it comes to GC. He can win RVV. He's shown that before. He can win every single monument that exists, in my personal opinion. I think Roubaix is just a matter of time in his career. But regardless of whether he's the best rider ever, this performance was extremely good. Vingegaard's performance was also actually really good. Remco, hell of a performance, coming in third on 2:51. That's about a minute 40 behind Vingegaard, who loses 1:08 towards Pogacar. Landa comes in fourth. That's also really impressive to me. He gets on 3:54, and through this performance, he actually ends up in the top 5 of GC, because Rodriguez not only gets passed by Adam Yates, Buitrago, and so forth on the road, but Almeida ends up passing everybody except for the front 4 riders, finishes 5th, and now, I don't know, man. I did not expect Landa to also, at the end of this stage, be on the top 5 of GC past Carlos Rodriguez, especially because I expected today's stage to benefit Carlos Rodriguez.
Yeah, but then I realized, like on Cold Lows, he wasn't that good. But yeah, it's like, and especially if you're getting released by Jorgensen, you're going to be losing big time on a climb this long in the heat. So like Mikel Landa, he got picked up not off the scrap heap, but he wasn't the first choice for Quick Step last year as their mountain domestique, and he's sitting 5th in the Tour de France. Yeah, not close, but Jesus, he's 5th in the Tour de France. There's no shame in that. But we got to give credits to. I want to do a little spiel about Pogacar and UAE, Benji. Can I have the microphone?
You can have the microphone.
So you win the Tour twice. You're the best rider in the world, winning monuments. Then Vingegaard and Roglic, they work you over on Grenoble. Then the next year, okay, the wrist injury, you could say it ruined his preparation, so then he cracks on lows. But they decided they needed to make a change. And they worked on different things in the off-season. They changed his coach. I think to Javier Soler's now his coach at UAE, and changed his training a little bit. And obviously they identified that the long climbs in the heat or whatever were his Achilles heel. They were. That was the only time Vingegaard ever put him under pressure. And this year we saw it a little bit of. I mean, it was hard to see in the Giro, Benji. It's like, okay, but he's beating up, with all due respect, Danny Martinez and Geraint Thomas, who maybe aren't pacing full gas behind him. But now it's not a weakness. Now he's better than Vingegaard. Well, we don't know what Vingegaard is. Best level, whatever. Vingegaard's at a good level. He put him 2 minutes into Remco. He's at a good level. And Pogacar cleaned him up in the Pyrenees. Cleaned him up. So credits to them and to Pogacar. And I think he's put this Tour de France to bed today.
I think, we said it yesterday that this stage would be the indicator. If Pogacar can drop Vingegaard on this stage, is what we said, then it looked unlikely that it would be the other way around in week 3, because this was the one game plan that I saw from through all the interviews of Visma and so far. Waiting for week 3, the race isn't over yet, whatever. Yes, so I expect to lose some time today, but I don't give up, etc. All that kind of stuff. But in the first 2 weeks, it all hinted at them trying the same plan that they tried in the last 2 years. Because in the last 2 years, they tried to exploit the vulnerability of those high energy expenditure stage with the long climbs in the heat, whatever, the whole shebang, all together in one thing. And it's only a pattern until it isn't anymore. And with those changes of the trainer, I think I foreshadowed it last week. It's the plan that Visma has, but it might not work anymore because of those changes. And now we see that it does not work, this plan. And I gotta be honest, I see no alternative. It's either that working for them today, or Vingegaard loses the Tour.
Pretty much. I mean, there's no alternative. In this race, there is no alternative.
Yeah, Pogacar is just better.
Visma paced all day, blew up in their face. Vingegaard loses another minute. In terms of the GC, it changes actually nothing because he actually extends his gap to Remco. No, it's not like he really destroyed his whole GC. If you don't do it, you just accept defeat, and Vingegaard's not here to come second. He's going to come second, most likely.
Great sentence, bro.
But you know what I mean. But in terms of the future, Also, it's back to the drawing board for Visma Lease Bike, because unless you can find a second Jonas Vingegaard to maybe do dual leader strategies, and right now I don't see one. Like, Roglic as a second leader, Benji, ain't making any difference to Pogacar on this level. Yes,
but I do have to have the question, how much does the team strength for the not team strength of Visma Lease Bike this year in this Tour de France? They were on a solid level today, but they were better in the last 2 years. How much does that impact their ability to make it a hard race in the first place? Because, yes, Laporte is pacing and so forth, and Benoit is pacing on the climbs throughout the stage, Lemon is pacing throughout the climbs, but how much harder would it have been with the team strength they had last year? And would that have made a little bit of a difference? I don't think it changes the outcome at all. I think Pogacar would have won regardless. But is there something that might have impacted the effectiveness of that strategy in the first place? Because it's a balance, eh? Make the race hard enough. What is hard enough? Like in the valley, at what point is it a hard tempo? On the climbs, at what point is it a hard tempo? Is the valley before the final climb too long, etc.? So those are also all questions, you know?
I mean, I think they made it pretty hard. Like, look at the gaps at the finish. In this stage, the 10th place Felix Gall finishes on 6 minutes. Adam Yates, Almeida finished on 4:43. From Vingegaard to Evenepoel, there's nearly 2 minutes. If Santiago Buitrago just uploaded on Strava, let's say he's 60 kilos, more or less. He did Peresud at about 6.2 watts per kilo. Then Mont, 5.7. Porte d'Aspet, 6.2. Col d'Agnès, 6. Like Porte d'Aspet, 5.7. Bit more of a draft there. He was on 4,000 kilojoules before Plateau de Bay in 30-degree heat. This was a extremely difficult stage.
Yeah.
And he ends on over 5,000 kilojoules. But, and he did, so like, okay, Koos maybe makes a bit of a difference on the final climb, but again, I'm not sure it really
moves the needle.
Well, Pogacar was not, it's not like, oh, if it was a bit harder.
Yeah.
Pogacar suddenly bonks. There was no performance decline from the fatigue. So it's not, I don't think that it would have just meant actually that Pogacar took more of a gap on everybody.
Talking about no performance decline, Remco Evenepoel, the one thing that I hadn't seen him do before this Tour de France in his career at a very successful level were the major mountain stages with multiple mountains, talking about 5,000 altitude meters. The ones at the Giro last year, or Crans Montana, etc., those kind of got ganned and he never got to them because of COVID unrest, etc. But today was a really impressive performance by Remco Evenepoel. And he not only like shows that he deserves to be on that Tour de France podium, he not only shows that he can take on those brutal mountain stages, but he also extends his lead on literally everybody when it comes to GC. Have we spoken about the exact gaps in GC? Pogacar in first?
I should do the full stage results, should I?
Okay, you can go.
Okay. Pogacar in first on 108 to Vingegaard, then 251 to Evenepoel, 354 to Landa, 443 to Joao Almeida, who did classic Almeida things. He dropped from a group of 12 and then finishes 5th on the stage. Adam Yates on 456. Buitrago 508, Carlos Rodriguez 508. So actually small gaps between Almeida, Yates, Buitrago, Rodriguez. Carapaz 541, but he started with a 2-minute buffer. Felix Gall 557. G629 with Ciccone. And let's say that's all the GC guys. In terms of the GC rankings, Pogacar extends his lead to now 309 over Vingegaard, 519 to Evenepoel. So those podium places seem quite set. Or maybe not actually. Evenepoel with the TT, you never know. And then from 3rd to 4th, though, Remco is looking very good. A 5-minute, 40-second gap, or 30-second, 35-second gap to Almeida. And Landa, though, is knocking on the door. 11:21, he moves into 5th. So Rodriguez, instead of going into 4th, maybe we thought could happen, he moves down actually to 6th. Adam Yates in 7th. Ciccone in 8th, still hangs on. G in 9th, and Buitrago moves into 10th on 16:32 in 10th at the end of week 2.
Well, is it? Yeah, we said it already. Eh? Based on today, you'd say the Tour de France is over.
Yeah, because Pogacar was way better today. So on Le Lorient, he had a wobble, let's say.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Compared to today, certainly. But yeah, the last 2 days, yeah, you untouchable. He was much better today than on stage 11. So Vingegaard is doing the best he can. And if Pogacar's putting a minute into him on a stage like this, then I don't see why it would change in week 3. In fact, it should be Pogacar keeps taking time if you feel like it. So I don't want to be telling people to tune out for week 3, but I mean, anything can happen. Anything can happen, but
you never know. Like, we've seen shit happen in cycling. Bar mechanicals and crashes, it's looking very likely that Pogacar runs away with Tour de France. And hey, based on his performance so far, that's a super deserved Tour de France. Me, from a viewership perspective, I like a bit of a wobble in week 3 maybe, so that we have some tension. That's always me, because I always want the Tour de France to be a close race. So maybe a little bit of a wobble is welcome. But hey, if it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. And we've got great stages next week, like climbing Cim de la Bonnette before Isola 2000. Sorry, but that's a crazy stage. That's to 2,800 meters altitude. Regardless of GC looking relatively set, to be honest, when it comes to the podium, But you said it also, Vingegaard's not here to come second. Is there a chance they do try something super crazy, but do they even have the possibilities for that? Because if you then think, okay, maybe Vingegaard attacks early, but anyway, he still has Adam Yates, Almeida, and so forth in his surroundings.
Pogacar's not letting that gap open in the first place.
It's unlikely that we see a Chris Froome 2018 Giro style takeover on Cim de la Bonnette or something.
Yeah, because that's a long climb, 23k, 7% to 2,800 meters, but then you need to go all in for the win again. And then Pogacar, even if you drop him, there's a descent of 40k's to the base of Isola. So that's advantage Pogacar. I would probably see Pogacar going solo on Bonnette, actually, from what I've seen, and taking the time out on the descent. So
would you risk that, though?
I'm not sure. Today,
shouldn't.
I'll risk, going full, because the closest Pogacar's come to losing his TDF so far was the descent of Puy-Marie.
Yeah.
When he break too much, that's the closest he's come to losing the Tour so far. So when you're that much better than everybody else and you got a 3-minute lead, I agree. There's no taking a descent risk seems not wise, but who knows? I think Remco, this has got to be the best he's ever looked in a 3-week race,
mate,
even though he's third.
For sure. This is the best he's ever looked. This is the most consistent he's ever looked. He's always the third best rider on the road every single time. This entire Grand Tour, he's been the third best rider on the road, and he keeps delivering that. So as long as he stays as consistent in week 3, he should easily secure that third position. And this does open up, I don't know, like, Remco's the kind of rider that will always get shit on the internet because he likes saying what he thinks. He has his, what do you call that? His mouth on his tongue? No. He has his heart on his tongue.
No, where's his heart on his sleeve? You've done this one before.
No, in Belgium, it's hard on your tongue.
You've done this one before.
No, hard on your tongue is the Belgian one. I'm not accepting your sleeve. We're going with hard on your tongue. So Remco has that, and yes, he gets criticized for that. Like, for example, the balls coming on the gravel stage, for example. But let's be honest, Jonas showed he has balls today, but Remco has also shown throughout this Grand Tour he has the balls for a podium. And the man's been consistent, the man's delivered, and a top 3 at the Tour de France is a perfect result for Remco Evenepoel here.
And a stage win?
Yes.
And the white jersey?
And the white jersey, you're right. Like, it was his first Grand Tour. Probably everybody wanted to see him at a Tour de France maybe a bit earlier than this year, but hey, that's how his career went. And he's still a young rider. So in the future, is there still a chance, in your opinion, that he can level up a little and maybe get closer to the Vingegaard Pogacars of the world?
I think so, to be honest. Like, look where he was in the Dauphiné. It's not like he came in and was really good in the Dauphiné. He was getting dropped. He was struggling. And so he didn't have a perfect preparation either, Remco. So there's got to be a margin of improvement. And he's got the TT. So what if the Tour de France brings back 120 Ks of flat time trial kilometers? Maybe.
Yeah.
The
Wigan says.
Yeah, for the Aero Bullet. Although they bring in some Liège style stages. I mean, that doesn't suit him much more than Pogacar. But yeah, I think this is the best Tour de France they could have possibly hoped for. You're behind Vingegaard and Pogacar, no shame in that. You're beating every other young rider. You're winning a stage, and maybe you win another one on stage 21.
Yep.
But yeah, and also there's no crack. It's just he's just been consistently good every day.
They do have the benefit that they're a third rider, because the team, well, the race is being carried by UAE and Visma Lease Bike, and the way they control and attack each other throughout the stages. They are always the ones spacing on mountain stages. Quickstep hasn't needed to do that in this race at all. And I gotta say, Landa's been fantastic.
Yep.
Moscon's been fantastic. Van Wilder has been a disappointment in my personal opinion.
Yep.
And
Geert has been good for someone who had his teeth knocked out on stage 1.
Exactly. Vervaek was consistent in week 1. I've seen him less in the second week.
Yeah, because he left the race.
Well, maybe I keep forgetting that he left the race. You keep reminding me.
I keep trying to defend Vervaek. I say he's got COVID.
How dare you be washed today? Didn't see him at all today. How dare you?
The Remco to Red Bull Bora rumors resurfaced, right?
Yeah, but it's every single year we've got a rumor of Remco joining a certain team. So it's only a matter of time before we get a rumor of some team merging with another.
Quickstep team looks way better from what I've seen.
I think so as well. Hindley was not good. Well, yeah, not great. He can still win the stage from the breakaway. Yeah,
Lander's
exactly. Vlasov, before he abandoned, wasn't on point.
He wouldn't be 5th either. I'll tell you that for free.
So I agree, but I still don't think Quickstep's team is close. There's still problems with it. They're not like UAE, which is logical. The budget is a major difference with those teams. They can't pay for a team like that. But is that then an incentive for Remco to join another team? Bora might not be the solution there, but they might be in the future if their talk about their money coming in is true, you know?
Yeah. But then, it's kind of the experience thing as well. Like, is institutional knowledge of how to ride for Grand Tours or GC, does that count? Like UAE and Visma and Ineos theoretically have that advantage. But to be honest, Quickstep look like they're doing a pretty good job so far this race. I think we've covered everything, Benji. We've given the props to Pogacar. We've said we're Visma stupid. In the end, you pace all day and get your ass beat. So it looks that way in the end.
But there is no strategy that would have made that different today. Pogacar would have won today, whatever strategy Vingegaard and Visma Lab cooked up, because he was just better on the road. And reality is, yes, I said it already, they could have gone for a more defensive strategy, but you won't win the Tour de France with a defensive strategy. If you only pace on Plateau de Bay, you're going to get beaten by Pogacar 100% of the time. Before the stage started, the only possibility of potentially beating Pogacar was trying something different than that. And yes, it failed, it backfired, but if they don't do that, they lose the Tour de France anyway. So if you start criticizing Visma Lab for trying what they did today, then you kind of want them to do what they did, for example, yesterday, and let UAE kind of cook it up and maybe pace on the last climb. And reality is that then they're going to lose the Tour de France anyway, just lose a bit less time today than they would have had with a more risky strategy that they chose. So I have zero issues with the strategy.
Oh, that's good to hear. But yeah, in the end, Pogacar takes over a minute.
If it was shit, I'll call you out.
Well, you got to try. You got to try. And if Pogacar's way better, then that's just how it is. There's no shame in that. And Pogacar was, as I said, like, even on stage 11, you see, the stage gets a bit longer, 200 Ks per tour, second climb. Pogacar hits the wall a bit, slows down. But he was much, much better this weekend than on stage 11. So there's no shame in that, I don't think. But we'll see what happens for the rest of the race. It's like, do you go again on Isola and get humiliated? Who knows?
I also don't necessarily hate it changing every now and then. Yes, Vingegaard won the Tour 2 years in a row. Before that, Pogacar won the Tour 2 years in a row. I'm very much, honestly, I kind of like the idea of it going to Pogacar this year, if that's how the race turns out, because I want it to be a two-way fight that forces every single one of those teams to try and reinvent themselves every single time, because then there's a fight. And that's the fight you kind of won over the years. You don't want it to always be the same team winning. Then you've got the Sky Days, and let's be honest about it, the GC days, when it comes to the Sky Days, weren't very interesting.
Exactly. Like if Vingegaard wins this Tour coming out of ICU, then with you think with it, with the perfect preparation of next year, then Pogacar won't have much chance. But now it's like back to the drawing board for him, because even with perfect preparation, you're probably no one's beating this Tadej Pogacar. But still, I mean, it's still only going into rest day number 2. We should say the points we've done.
Wait. One final paragraph, my friend.
Oh, yeah?
One final paragraph. You said it. It's super impressive. Pogacar delivering the best GC performance I've seen in my entire lifetime. That man is the best GC rider I've seen. The best rider I've ever seen. Vingegaard, the way he came back from that injury and is at the level he is at, because honestly, I kind of don't see a difference compared to the level he had last year. Maybe there's a slight difference in the numbers, but kind of looks like the best Vingegaard to me. Like, that's a super impressive recovery. And I don't know, man. Like, sometimes I'm really shocked at every cyclist, how fast the average cyclist recovers from injuries. And I guess they just
have... Steph Kras is doing well here too.
Yeah, like, it's like, well, who do I need to pay to recover that quickly from like a collarbone as like a cyclist, man? Like, if I fall off my bike with a collarbone, I'm crying for a week before I find out who can actually help me.
Well, that's what move to Andorra, Benji. We won't get political on your current healthcare provider then, I guess.
In the UK, fuck, man. I swear I booked like an appointment like ages ago, and then I asked like, okay, when can I go like get an appointment? And I could choose between two things: an appointment in person or an appointment on the phone. One on the phone was in a month, and one in person was in 2.5 minutes. Sorry, but like that's too much. And I know it's the NHS in the UK that's in trouble, but man, I fucking pay enough to get some NHS here, guys.
Well, maybe if you move to Monaco or Andorra, Benji, you can climb Plateau to Bay like these guys.
I don't think I can afford that, my friend. I'll do it on like Zwift or something.
But yeah, crazy performances today, and it was an exciting stage. And like Benji said, if Vingegaard wasn't here, this would be the Giro all over again. So he is getting beat down by Pogacar, that's for sure, the last 2 days. But if he wasn't here, it would have been maybe, the Giro, the gaps are even bigger, I think. Points jersey, Biniam is, well, without seeing the jury communicate, about 90 points ahead of Philipsen, which I think is insurmountable. I don't know. Mathematically, it's not insurmountable, but I think it is insurmountable. So Biniam is looking pretty good for that. KOM jersey, Pogacar's also looking pretty good for that, unless UAE really try to make friends in the peloton next week. Because Bonnet has a lot of points. Obviously, he's on 77 points, 19 ahead of Vingegaard, and Evenepoel's on 42. So Lascano, Guru, they could try getting breakaways, but yeah, it depends what UAE do. But Pogacar can win that if he wants to, or inadvertently. Evenepoel has a lead of 6 minutes in the white jersey, so he's looking pretty good for that. And we just had the most attritional stage of the race where he put big time into Rodriguez. So I don't see a big crack coming, and UAE are leading teams classification by an hour. So that's also looking pretty good for them. So yeah, what's any stories going into the rest day, Benji? I guess we'll preview stage 16 as well, unless you got anything else.
I think when it comes to OTL, there was a bit of an OTL watch.
Oh, yes.
And I swear after like 40 minutes, keep in mind, the time limit today was 53 minutes, but after 40 minutes, only 47 riders had finished. So a large gruppetto was still coming, and the majority came in time. There's only one rider out of the time limit. It's Bram Welton, but let's be honest about it. His sprint is already gone, so it's not like he had someone to lead out anyway, but still unfortunate that the lad will not finish his Tour de France this year. But like you said, let's go on to the next stage. Sprint stage?
Yeah, in theory, a sprint stage from Gruissan to Nîmes, and this is this is if you get the TGV, the slow one from Perpignan, it goes this way if you're going to Paris, and then connects up. So
how do you know that?
Because I took it once. I should have got it from Toulouse. It would have been quicker. This is not right on the coast, but it's flat, it's exposed, and there can be, I don't know if it's the Mistral. I don't know my winds too well. Luke will know, but there can be wind in these sort of stages. I haven't checked the forecast yet, obviously, because it's on Tuesday. But yeah, it's going all in one direction with some turns in and out of villages. Could be another crosswind stage. There's one Cat 4, so really Abrahamson, I don't even think he'll go on the break. And I think this could be it's the last sprint opportunity, no, Benji?
Yes, it's the last sprint opportunity. We've got a bit of a breakaway stage on stage 18 to Barcelonette, but this is the last proper sprint. And it's weird because, like, on paper, you always have the last stage left. You've got the Champs-Élysées left, and this year we don't have that because we have Nice the time trial. So I don't know. I'm okay with it kind of being like this, but I'm also scared that will we see a sprinter leave the race in the next couple of days?
That's the thing. Like, they fought so hard to make it through today. Like you said, Cavendish seems to knows exactly what they need to do in the gruppetto. Although maybe he didn't know exactly how fast Poggy and Vingegaard would go, so he's just hoping they go a bit slower up front so they can make the OTL time cut. But they made it through for this sprint. They've not just slogged their way through two brutal Pyrenean stages to let a breakaway take this. So it's 100% going to be a sprint unless there's crazy echelons, which I don't think there will be. I think Cav will want to finish, Benji. If it's his last Tour de France, I don't think he'll want to just go to the beach somewhere. There's also some marketing involved. No, like there's marketing as well to be doing the interviews in Monaco and stage 21 for the T. And the TT doesn't scare these guys.
He should finish.
I think
Cavendish
he'll finish.
Definitely.
And he'll I think he said he wants to finish. And Binny obviously will, and Philipsen obviously will, because Philipsen, if Binny has a problem, you're second. So I don't think we'll see too many sprinters dropping out, frankly. Maybe Groenewegen.
Is it a sprint?
This stage? Oh, 16. Yeah. No. They're going to all out for a sprint. Jayco.
Astana. At this point, Anton Marché should as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's safe enough.
Should Visma now pace for Van Aert?
You can start considering it.
Why not put Lemon?
If Visma does not believe they can win the Tour de France anymore, then sure.
Even if they do, then still put Lemon to pace with Elmo to pace. It doesn't, So I think it's going to be a sprint, to be honest. Where's the IS placement? The IS is after a 7K 3.4% hill. Ooh. That's very unfortunate for Jasper Philipsen. So we should see Anton Marché absolutely launching that little climb. I would call it a medium mountain. Benji would call it an extended hill. And that's not good news for Philipsen. He's going to try to survive that, but he could be losing another 20-point delta to Binny, and then it's really dead and buried, the old green jersey battle.
Exactly. I don't have much else to say. I think the winner of this stage is going to be... I want an outsider to win this sprint. So I'm going to go for Arnaud Delis.
Arnaud Delis, he's been battling through. I'm going to go with Pascal Ackermann. He has not shown nearly the speed to win yet.
Since 2019.
He's been he's been top 3 in 3 sprints, the last 3.
He's been good this race. But
he's been good. His fitness is actually his biggest strength. Yeah. He's really, really fit, but the top end isn't there. But I agree. I wanted to go for a bit of an outsider.
I did the same.
This is a message to UnoX. Start your lead out a little bit later. Start a little bit later. They've been going with Varnskjold at 3Ks. Okay. Can't wait to watch it. Enjoy your rest day tomorrow. Everybody will be taking a rest day as well. Hope you enjoyed the recap of a historical day on the Tour de France, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Until then, ciao.